And good morning on Tuesday, March 7th. It's time for an earlier edition of the 359 podcast, episode 190. And today we have Alfred and Roger Cheng.
Wow.
Scott Stein.
Scott Stein. Hi,
and
everyone.
I'm fired.
Oh, man.
I'm fired. Nice to meet you.
That's right. I'm pretty forgettable. I get it.
Sorry, guys. I got distracted for a second.
That was interesting.
This is what happens when we start early.
I know. It just throws everything off.
A whole 20 minutes.
I haven't had
ruins
coffee
it.
either.
So we've got a great show. It is all about the Nintendo Switch today. We've got our special guest, Scott Stein, who has spent a lot of time with the Switch. He's going to give us his impressions, his thoughts, whether or not this thing is even worth buying. So let's just get it going. If you have any questions, leave in the comment section. And Scott will answer them all, hopefully.
Yeah. Yes,
In
anything.
about 3 minutes and
Seriously,
59
ask
seconds. And ask anything.
Okay.
That's scary.
AMA.
AMA.
We're just asking for trouble here.
I know.
Okay,
No,
here we
I'm
go.
right. I seriously, I've been playing this thing for like 2 weeks, so yeah. And I played a lot of Nintendo hardware too, so
You heard Scott. Bring it on.
bring it on.
Here we go. We're going to get this podcast recorded. Put your comments and questions and trolling and all you want in the chat. And we'll be back in 3 minutes and 59 seconds from 3, 2...
Welcome to the 359, where we talk about the top tech news of the day and all the other crap we want to throw in. I'm Roger Cheng,
I'm Alfred.
and with us is special guest Scott Stein, who spent an extensive amount of time with the Nintendo Switch.
Yes.
Before that, Alfred, you've got some numbers on how well the Switch has done.
Yeah, so Nintendo of Europe is reporting that it's got the largest launch weekend ever, beating out the Wii, which was, a hit for Nintendo.
Sure.
And then in Japan, not so much so. So in its first 2 days, it sold about 313,000 copies or units of the Switch, whereas the Wii had about 370,000 in its first week.
Okay, still off to a decent start. Definitely
Yeah.
not the Wii U. All right, so on to the Switch, Scott. Is this going to be like the hot-selling Wii, or is it going to be like the disappointing Wii U?
I'm holding one right now, and I'm thinking about it as I hold it in my left hand. I think it's in between, and clearly it's got a lot more heat than the Wii U. People are really talking about it. On the other hand, I think the Wii it was kind of like Avatar or Titanic. I feel like it just kept going and going and going.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
it was a total phenom.
Yeah, you just kept buying it, and Wii Sports kept going. So the question really is the novelty or the interest, will it keep growing through? Right now, it's a really soft launch, I think, in terms of the number of games. It's the holiday when the Mario game arrives, when you've got all that. Does it become a huge seller? Do they have enough in stock? I think it's like not till the end of the year do we really know that question. Because like how many people are buying consoles in the middle of the summer?
Right. Well, I mean, for folks who are interested in buying it now, though, like, is Zelda enough to justify the purchase, or is the breadth of games that's available right now good enough for you?
Yeah, I mean, Zelda's fantastic. We all know that.
Right.
And if you don't know that, it's fantastic. I think it lives up to all of the accolades. I think it's game design. I think it's one of the most exciting games since Mario 64.
Wow.
And it's gigantic. But you could also get it for the Wii U. The question is, do you have a Wii U? I don't know if you have a Wii U.
I do not.
Yeah, I think odds are you probably don't. But is it worth spending all that for it? I mean, if you get that one game, I look back to like the N64 only had 2 games when it came out. Pilot Wings and Mario 64.
Really?
I looked this up.
Classics, too.
Wow. Yeah.
Two games. But, it was Mario 64 and it was great. So if you have a game that you could play for 100 hours plus, okay, maybe that justifies and holds you over for a long time. And there are a couple other games. I still feel like I wouldn't recommend it to most people. It kind of falls to me in, and this may sound like a real drop down, I put it in the Apple Watch category in the sense that, hear me
that
out.
you can't wear it, though.
Apple Watch earned its way to, I think, being the best smartwatch out there right now. Of course, a lot of others have fallen off. I think it's got a lot of interesting things and a lot of people who like them. I wouldn't necessarily go out there and say, get an Apple Watch.
All right, so
it's not necessary. I don't think the Switch is necessary. I don't think it's earned its way yet, but it's interesting.
Best and worst thing about this thing, about the Switch.
Well, I think the best thing is the proposition really works between the portable and the console.
Okay.
So that's really cool. Worst thing is probably also that in a way, because it sounds weird, but sometimes there's another thing I've been thinking out. Sometimes it feels too big. Sometimes it feels too small. And I'm kind of weighing this out. Like, it's a really big handheld, but also it's a portable console. But is the console got too many things that don't really feel as comfortable as a regular big console, like those controllers? And also obviously the game selection, which you want to be bigger. It is early days. But the problem really is, to me, the Virtual Console, no retro games, no NES games, and no way to do anything with your old content. Other Nintendo consoles, you could at least take Wii games or something.
All right. All right, well, that's pretty much all the time we've got.
Sorry, that was
That was a lot. No, that was a lot to process. Bottom line, yes or no, would you buy this thing? Would you tell someone to buy this thing?
I would buy it right now because I always buy new tech. But if you're really curious about it, you could wait.
All right, for more on these stories, check us out on CNET. I'm Roger Cheng.
I'm Alfred.
I'm Scott Stein.
Thanks for listening.
All right, we have some good questions brewing up in the chat already.
All right.
And get ready, Scott, because they're all coming to
Alfred and I
Okay.
are just going to go chill in the corner now. and hang
Here
out.
we go.
That sounded weird.
I've had some coffee, some French roast with no sugar or
Okay.
milk.
you. Cool story, bro.
It's bitter like a Switch cartridge.
Oh,
I
nice.
see what you did there.
Yeah.
All right, Matthew wants to
Dip it
know.
in like a tea bag.
Yeah, I know. It's Switch
oh
tea.
my God, we should make Switch tea.
Switch, so make some delicious Switch tea. What cartridge? One, two Switch might be the only
You know,
one we'd
that
want to
would have been a
sacrifice.
good drink for the long forgotten, sadly forgotten Open Tap show.
Oh my God.
It's good. Wherein we make Switch
The
tea.
Nintendo Switch tea.
All
The
right.
one where we make Switch tea.
Matthew in the chat
about
wants
bitters?
to know. He said, I heard a rumor that the screen on the Switch scratches easily. Any truth to that? Are we going to need screen protectors and cases for the Switch?
Really good question. I have not done scratch testing on the unit here. Now, that's because I've been trying to hold it delicately and we've been wanting to do photos and other things with it. It concerns me that the case that was sent along with the Switch review unit had screen protectors. So, also there was no mention of Gorilla Glass or anything like that. I mean, not that Nintendo's necessarily going to say that, but usually if something really nice is in a feature set for a system, you'd mention it. Yeah, I'd be concerned about it. Definitely. It's a big screen. And it feels more fragile than any other Nintendo hardware I can remember, because the old systems, even as Roger reaches for it, I'm like, careful with it. As he drops it face down. But it's it's a big expanse of glass. It is the others you can fold up, and then the days of the Game Boy and stuff, who cared? Those were like little. I don't know. I didn't care about that back then. Why didn't we care about scratch screens
Well,
back
to
in
be
the
I
day?
cared about
like-
cracking my screen on
Yeah.
the Game Boy, the original Game Boy.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we didn't care.
But I was also too young to care about this sort of thing. Like, to really care about it. Right? Like, when it happened, I'd be
got
really
bugged.
sad. But yeah, like I wasn't too concerned
It
about it.
adds character, if anything.
Oh, God.
All right, next. How annoying is the charging port? It's USB-C, I'd say it's
Oh,
pretty...
USB-C? I think it's great that it has USB-C. However, I've noticed that it doesn't really charge that rapidly, even with the included charger. It's a bit of a slow charger, especially if you're used to a phone. You're going to have to charge it for almost... it feels like you have to charge it for like... I'm totally guessing here, as I didn't do a full charge test, but it feels like you have to charge it for almost like half to 2/3 as long as you were playing it. Plus, when you're playing it and keeping it plugged in, it's not really charging up that much. And there have been reports, and we're still testing this, that if you use USB-C, depending on whether it's a USB-C or a USB-C end on the other end, it does weird things. Sometimes it might charge slowly. Sometimes the other device might use it as a battery. There were reports about MacBooks in it, like the MacBook sucking up the Switch's battery, because
Really?
USB-C can...
Oh, it goes,
two ways.
it goes
It's
both
a weird
ways.
little vampire
Yeah.
umbilical cord thing. So, it's going to require some experimentation, but it's great that Nintendo always had proprietary cables. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. You can just pick up another. Between that and NES Classic,
Now we just maybe need to refine the USB-C technology.
yeah, I'm hoping it also means that they come up with something that doesn't need a dock. Like, could you just get a cable with a splitter that
Right, this
actually...
thing needs a dock.
Well, it has a dock that comes with it.
But there's no like.
But
can
I'm
you
not-
just plug in a regular USB-C
I didn't see the
cable?
teardowns. I mean, I was just being oblivious, but they said there's no real hardware in there. I wonder if the dock is even necessary. Could you just make a travel cable?
Yeah.
Or like
Probably.
a Chromecast kind of situation with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's USB-C. I mean, you're just outputting to HDMI and then an extra USB ports.
Now, I've heard some difficulties with charging, like if you're in gameplay and the unit might not charge completely during that time. Like it might peak out at like 79, 80%. Is there any merit to that?
I didn't see that.
Okay.
But I find when I'm looking as I'm playing, right now I'm at half battery life. I tend to find the battery throughout the day as I'm charging or trying to play and do other things is not in a fully charged state. So it's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those batteries that I'm kind of having to like babysit a bit.
Sure.
You know, I'm not like, oh great, it's fully charged, awesome. I'm more like, even if I've been putting it in the dock for a while, I might take it out and be like, oh, it feels like it's about 2/3.
Do you think there's ever going to be any aspect of like a extra charge pack, battery pack kind of thing, travel pack?
Yeah, I mean, I hope there are official ones that maybe attach a little bit easier or charge in a better way. I think there'll be a ton of those because I don't think Nintendo is really. I mean, I don't think there's a licensing program. I mean, I think just USB-C things are going to start emerging. There are already a lot of weird accessories for the Switch. This might be one of the largest collections of weird accessory things we've ever had for a game system because between USB-C and the number of ways to play, I think you're going to a lot of people selling stands and extra things and cases and cables. It's like an accessory seller's dream.
I'm sure that's part of Nintendo's master plan.
All right, we got more than a few people that want to hear what your perspective is on the build. How do you feel about the actual build and how solid it is? Good
question. And I want to throw something that I don't know if someone's going to ask me, but I'm just going to put it in there that is interesting to know. And it relates to build. It feels solid. The funny thing about the Switch, the Joy-Cons connecting here is that I'm not going to say it feels flimsy, but you can feel a little bit of like...
Little give?
Little give.
Ugh.
It's a little weird. I think it's solid, though, because there are metal rails on the side. But it kind of freaks me out. On the other hand, it is nice that as far as a replaceability thing, when you realize that these are slide-out replaceable control things, compare that to a Vita or a 3DS, it means that you could wear these down and get new ones.
Sure. Well, those controllers are pretty expensive, right?
They're expensive.
Yeah.
But the fact that you could do that is a kind of repairability thing, which is nice.
We know the Pro's rolling at like, what, $70, $80, right? The Pro controller?
Yeah.
What does it take for replacement Joy-Cons or extra Joy-Cons?
I think it's 80 for both, 50 for one.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So it's expensive. You don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And some games that are coming out
Take care of your stuff, kids.
I know. And get ready because games like ARMS, we don't have a lot of multiplayer yet, but ARMS, the robo-boxing game, wants you to have a second pair.
Yeah,
you want to have a second.
Each other.
You're supposed to have a second pair of Joy-Cons.
Yeah.
So that's when you go shopping for the $80 add-on, perhaps. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But no, but it's a lot of money. There's no but.
Look,
can I also say? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, just you told me yesterday. I mean, you've let your son try this out.
Yeah.
He's tried this and he's tried the Nintendo Classic, and it's sort of a surprising conclusion, right?
Well, can I get to that in 1 sec? Because I want to talk about build quality a bit more.
All right.
Hey.
I'm going to say, okay, build quality. I'll get to it for one hair of a second because I'm just going to say it at some point. Kickstand sucks, but I think if you've tried it, you know that. Listen. It's fine. Most consoles don't have kickstands, right?
That's true.
So that's a nice
Most
little
consoles you don't take
with you
right.
anywhere.
Listen,
so in that sense, it's nice. And a lot of cases are going to have them. However, it doesn't have adjustable angles. That's kind of annoying. You have to have a really flat surface. That's
in a short amount of time, somebody's going to develop a latch-on better kickstand version.
Or like the cover will have its
That's
built-in
the point.
kickstand.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to come up with a better idea, like a resting box that is adjustable and all that. That'll come.
Well, this case here actually is a kickstand.
There you go.
So it is a
I
stand.
notice it.
So a lot of them are going to have that.
Does it come with a case? Is that an accessory or what is that?
You have to buy it. It's like $20.
I'm just going to put this out there. No one's ever going to live up to the GameCube lunchbox handle.
I know.
I
don't like that the cartridge door is one of those pull-out doors with plastic. I feel like that's going to fall off at some point.
Hey,
and
while you're there, we've got people in the chat who want to see a cartridge. Show us that tasty little nugget.
Yeah.
Can I say one more thing about build that you didn't know?
No.
There's a vent at the top. This is the one thing that freaks me out. There's a big vent, deep vent. What's a little weird is when you're playing games on the handheld, the fan turns on, and you can feel a little hot air come out, little warm breeze if you put your face close.
That'll be nice during the summer.
So I've never seen that.
It will actually be nice in the winter.
Yeah, I've never seen that in a handheld. I'm not used to vents.
Oh God.
Imagine if it was made by Microsoft and they had the Xbox fan in there.
Right.
Imagine if.
Well, it reminds me of the Surface tablet, where the Surface had the very subtle vent that ringed the Surface Pro, and you could hear the fan kick in. So.
Is that the cartridge?
That's the cartridge. Really small, and it is bitter.
Looks like an SD card. Don't taste it. Don't taste it.
How many people in this office has put their tongue on that now?
I know.
Just me.
Too many people.
Oh, okay.
Just me, Alfred. Just me. All over it.
Oh, no.
Not on the contacts. I'm not a monster. But it tastes bitter. Look, it's not like it's going to burn your tongue off. It just go.
But it's going to make your kids spit it out.
Maybe
Did your
not.
kid eat a
Maybe-
cartridge already?
I'm not sure about that because I just put my tongue on it and it's not like it went, oh, my tongue burned up, I'm dead. I just tasted
So like,
it.
oh,
I
okay.
think, I think you've gotten numb to
try a
the
little more.
taste after like.
I just drank really bitter coffee.
Yeah. Right.
I'm old, right? My tongue, I've got old tongue, so.
All right, let's slam through a couple more questions. Oh, while we're at it, what is the storage capacity on one of those?
Don't drop it on the coffee.
I won't drop it in the coffee.
Storage capacity, I actually I don't know, but I think it's pretty high. These are multi-gig. I mean,
Okay.
Zelda's on there, so I mean, what were people saying? That was about 13 gig or something
I mean,
like that.
you can get 128 gigs on a card this size nowadays, so I can't imagine.
That's the thing. It's not that exciting. You get 16
Yeah.
gigs
Yeah.
is on a
It's-
novelty
it's
keychain.
It's a fancy SD card, and
Right.
it won't be long
Yeah.
until somebody figures out how to pirate one of those. And
I don't know the exact amount, but this is basically like, yeah, I think it's in the SD card.
it's so funny that we've gone back to cartridges, though. Am I alone in that?
Yeah, that's
After we've been in discs for so long.
Well,
and-
Nintendo had been doing that for a while with their handhelds.
No,
Right.
but like you said, with like the 64, like that was the last real cartridge system, and
But the handhelds did it. So it's like if you're a 3DS or it depends on which way you're coming. Exactly.
Yeah.
Alfred. Like
Right.
if you're a 3DS Vita person, you're like, oh, this looks like a Vita card. In fact, it looks exactly like a Vita card, just thicker. But yes, if you're a console person, you're like, what?
a weird throwback.
What is this postage stamp
Yeah.
that I have to now? Also, you could really obviously lose this.
Yeah,
So don't keep those
Unless
$60.
you've got
Shocking they
a
don't have
handy
more-
bag like that.
I mean, to be
it's
honest,
shocking they don't have more local storage on the Switch itself. You'd think.
Yeah, it has micro SD, so at least, but it's like 32 gig on board, which will get filled up. I think I have 25 gigs free right now.
Yeah.
Really weird, and I haven't experimented enough with this, or the stories and the element with the Switch, which is that the local storage for games, for game saves, that it's on your Switch. Once again, it looks like Nintendo has not made transfer of that to other Switches possible, or family sharing. Like what happens when you buy a second Switch? Because I'm traveling, it's my handheld. Now my son doesn't have a console. He's going to get a second Switch. But we can't share
Or what
games.
if your Switch breaks down and you can't transfer your game saves?
Well,
You're
they had the
just so
same.
screwed, right?
They had that problem with the 3DS, where it's like call Nintendo and they can help. It sounds like it'd be kind of a mess. But
All right, I got to rein you back in because we're going to run out of time shortly.
my son, I was going to talk about too. But could we do that for 1 sec?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
Or unless you had another. But what was it like at home?
Yeah, what was it like at home?
I felt like I had to be careful with it around him. It's not easy to attach the controllers and attach that stuff. He actually really loved 1-2 Switch, and it made me rethink how I had talked about that because I think it is a fun kids game. It's silly. I don't think it's got a lot of staying power, but he liked that. He loved Fast RMX Racing was great. Snipper Clips, a lot of good multiplayer games. But the funny thing is, we also got the NES Classic, and he loves it. And when his friend came over, I said, "Which do you want to play?" He said, "NES Classic," and all they did was play Mega Man 2. They played Castlevania 2. Played all
Classics,
these games.
man.
Yeah,
They endure.
And I said, "Why'd you pick that one?" He's like, "Because it's great and it's got a lot of great games." And so NES, I mean, I'm going to write a piece about this, so keep an eye out for it. But NES Classic won, and won my 8-year-old over. So hey, if you can get one still, but that's why I say it's okay to wait on the Switch.
So we got to talk about Dead Pixels before we go. Recurring in the chat.
Yeah, it was the glitch, right?
All coming full circle with the durability. Looks like we're going to have
Yeah.
to give this thing a torture test.
Nintendo's calling
Someone's
it
gonna
the
give
future, though.
We'll have
right?
to give some Switch a torture test. But the Dead Pixels, yeah, Nintendo has apparently said, and got to follow up with them. We're waiting to hear back, but about what the support is for that. People are saying that they're not going to support replacing it, or
they're not
that Dead Pixels are normal. Those are the
feature.
reports coming out, but I'm not.
That's right.
Like, I need to investigate this as well. What I'm noticing I don't have Dead Pixels on the unit. I do have. It's not really crisp off angle. I think you get what is it, edge lighting. You get yeah, it's not. It's an okay screen. It's not the greatest screen, and my expectations for screens, it's not as good as the screen on the Vita. Even the non OLED one on the Vita Slim, it's not as good as that one. It's fine. It's maybe you want better than fine. And that goes back to other concerns. I mean, I have concerns about all of that. What happens with the controllers? And some people are having problems with the left Joy-Con, which I didn't have, but my Wi-Fi has not been good on the Switch.
Yeah.
My range is, I only get about 1 bar on the Switch. Downstairs, I have my router all the way upstairs, which is stupid. But but that's where that's where it runs in. but nothing else downstairs has had problems, and the Switch is showing very kind of low bar
and
status.
I've seen reports of that too, that the Wi-Fi is an issue for some units.
And on that note, will it have a browser someday?
I don't think Nintendo's interested in that stuff.
Yeah.
When Alfred and I talked to them, they repeatedly said that that's not, they're interested in games first. It might also be a duck as far as maybe how much the system can push without feeling taxed.
True.
I mean, it's highly likely that they're going to have some kind of Netflix app on it, though, or some kind of streaming thing. But browsers,
Streaming they're
not-
pursuing.
Don't
not
think so.
really, yeah.
All right, before we go,
I think they should do at least educational apps, or if they have some developers who can work on that.
yeah, but that's an app, not just a standard browser,
Yeah.
free-for-all
Yeah.
browser. Before we go, what does everybody think would be the answer? Like, what are the other console manufacturers going to respond to this with? We already know that we're getting mega tanks out of the next PlayStation and Xbox coming down the line, but are there going to be PSP Vita revivals? Are we going to see another kind of wave of portabilities taking a stance?
I feel like the market's kind of bifurcating, and Nintendo's sort of got this sort of niche that they're going after, nostalgia, millennials, whatever. Microsoft and Sony have a lock on sort of the gamer market. That's why
Absolutely.
they're doubling down on more powerful systems, better graphics, the full home experience.
But do you think this will reinvigorate the portability, the portable market?
I don't think so.
Don't think so.
Partially because most people already play games
It
on
is
the
just
road
pure
on
niche.
their phones.
Yeah, right.
And that's the problem.
Exactly.
They're going after a market that's already kind of out there. I think
The people who live and breathe
right.
Nintendo.
Microsoft and Sony, I mean, I think they understand going into that mobile side of things. I mean, it's tougher. It's a much tougher market now than it was in years past, right? Because we spend so much time on our phones on the go, right? There's very little competition. Nintendo is trying something that's unique. I don't actually know if it'll all pan out, if it goes beyond the hardcore Nintendo fans, but
Yeah.
it's admirable that they're acknowledging that there needs to be more of a mobile experience here, but I don't know if people will actually call for that or answer that.
Scott?
Yeah, I think you're right, Roger. I think it's a question of the Vita often felt too big to take in my bag on trips, and it sounded ridiculous. But I remember I was like, I love the games on Vita. I was a big fan of the games on Vita. I thought the indie stuff was great. But then it's like one more thing to carry.
Yeah.
And it's like the Kindle or anything else. I feel like they're looking at a Kindle or a Surface tablet type philosophy, somewhere in the middle with what the Switch is. And then indie developers, interesting that they're getting on board, who are, I think, have feet in both mobile and console, doing middle range games. There's an interesting market for that it's hard. You can get them on PC, but it's not easy to get them other places. Sony's done a great job on PlayStation with those. Maybe that could be a market for this, but it might be too thin sliced. Yeah, I think Microsoft may be pursuing that with just through the Surface channel.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they may eventually, they want everything to be working on Windows 10. They say everything's a Windows 10 device, including Xbox. So in some ways, Microsoft might be going there. Apple might weirdly be exploring that with the iPad down the road. I feel like they already kind of are, but you had extra controllers and you could connect and be kind of there. Or I don't know if they're going to do it, but it could. But I feel like PlayStation doesn't have. I don't see it happening.
All right.
And I think the big consoles have a lot more horsepower, and they're also pursuing VR, which Nintendo can't do. I don't know if VR is going to take off as much as we thought, but it's still going to be there and be an AR too, and be factors.
Alfred?
Well, I don't think it's fair to compare the Switch to the Vita, especially since I think the Switch is slightly more powerful than the Vita is. And in the same sense, Nintendo's kind of going for both a home console and a mobile console, whereas the Vita doesn't really have that docking kind of capability. I think that's what Sony might be moving toward. In a way, we're going to have these consoles that you can, play games on your TV and play games with your friends and things like that while you're going on the move. I do think Nintendo, I think people will be buying into the Switch, to be honest, just because of that ability to play with your friends on the move and then playing at home, with the dock.
Right.
Yeah.
Nintendo, one thing to keep an eye on is Nintendo does often have its finger on hardware trends and ideas. They do a really good job with that. When the Wii came out, everyone went to motion.
Oh, yeah.
And when Wii U came out, as much of a failure it was, they understood the idea of second screen,
Yes.
which became a factor through tons of stuff over those years. So they saw something and were onto that. So I agree. I think there's something in the air with this.
Part of the problem with that second screen concept is we already have those second screens, right? It's our tablets, our phones. All right, we're running.
wait.
We're
And this
running
will
late.
work
I got
phones,
we
too.
got
One
one
last
more.
question.
Just because I've been unintentionally ignoring this, and they're being very adamant about it. How do you think developers will take advantage of the power of the Switch? As brief as you can, because we're out of time.
No, I think they could. I think it's like what Alfred said. This thing can go all the way up to console level, so it means that you could go handheld, console, and not worry about it, kind of like PCs. I think it's almost like a PC thing where you could play a game you bought on Steam on a laptop, take it with you. I think this is exploring that for console, and I think that's a huge development, and will be good for developers.
I can't wait
cool.
to see more peripherals come out on the unit to make it like a steering wheel.
Oh, and
Absolutely.
multiplayer. Zach Gage, if you know him as a game developer, was really excited about that on Twitter, and I was thinking that's a sign that people are thinking about those controls. Local multiplayer might start evolving in different ways.
All right, we got to wrap things up there. If you liked anything you saw or heard here, check us out on CNET. Our podcast is also available on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, FeedBurner, and Google Play Music. We'll see you all tomorrow.
Thanks, everybody.